Sri Gurubhyo Namaha children, welcome to online class. See, for a long time we are not met, and previous class we learned the first part of the summit, and we will see the thing what we are learnt, and then we will go for the second part children. We are going to do the second part in the summit written by Edmund Hillary. You know who is Edmund Hillary? He is a person in the part 1 we saw that he was a mountain climber and he proved himself with tennising. So, we saw that 5 paragraph in the previous part, and remaining we are going to continue in this. Okay children, it is very clear to you? Okay. So, your adventure and expectation is very important in one person's life. So, that is very much important. Okay. So, for the qualities we need is passion, reward, determination, physical fitness, fame, faith, courage, money and drive, vengeance, inspiration, self-satisfaction, vision and undying spirit, inner urge and perseverance. So, these are the qualities we needed, we saw in the previous class. Okay children, and we saw that 8 of them were just staying in South Colonel and other 6 were just climbing up. And while they are climbing up, the names I have told you, Tenzing, George, Colonel Edmund Hillary, Tenzing, George Loswell, Alfred George and the 2 Sherpas, Pema and Ang Ningma. So, but Pema was not feeling well, so he had not climbed up that day. To the height they have just gone 27,900 feet. Here Hillary and Tenzing put up a little tent and watched their 3 companions go down the ridge back towards the South Colonel. So, as the sun set, Hillary and Tenzing crawled and they were just climbing, and in the last part we saw that the snow was not good and they were not able to climb. And here we saw that they were just removing and making themselves taking the oxygen and just climbing. While they are climbing, when it was the 5th stanza, we saw that the situation was not fair and good for them. Okay children, we will see, continue the thing. So, these were the mountain where the peak, they were given the thing from here to there they were reaching, and colonel depression in the mountain chain a pass. So, the last thing we found that the soft snow was very dangerous and difficult for them, and it was a dangerous climb, but they were done. After several hundred feet we came a tiny hollow. So, in the hollow they got 2 cylinders and they kept that while they were coming down, it would be helpful for them. So, they took and kept it. You know that were used by 2 persons previously when earlier attempt made by Evans and Baldwin, and they were just going. When they are going, they got to when they found it is heavy weight, they left the cylinder for others to use. So, they left there, and that had been made use by the Hillary and Tenzing. So, several hundred liters of oxygen were there. So, here we stopped rightly children. Now, we are going to continue. It is clear to you? Okay. Okay, I continued making the trial on up the ridge leading up for the first 400 feet to the southern summit. The snow on this face was dangerous, but we persisted in our efforts to beat the trial up it. So, it was very dangerous zone and they were just walking. It is a narrow one and they have to walk, and how many 400 feet they have crossed with all the difficulties and facing all the dangers they have reached. And but we persisted in our effort. So, they were saying that with the presence of mind and what they know, the knowledge of just climbing on the hill, with that help they have just managed themselves in that dangerous place 400 feet. We made frequent changes of lead. You know, one is leading, there will be always danger. So, they were often changing their lead. So, first who will be just walking, Edmund Hillary will be walking, and then Tenzing will be just leading, and next few minutes Tenzing will be doing and then Hillary will be doing. That was the thing. As I was stamping a trail in the deep snow, a section round me gave way and I slipped back through 3 or 4 of my steps. I discussed with Tenzing the advisability of going on, and he, although admitting that he felt unhappy about the snow condition, and finished with his familiar phrase, "Just as you wish." So, So here what had happened, the author Edmund Hillary was giving an option to Tenzing. It is a dangerous place and they have already climbed 400 feet and anymore it will be very dangerous. So he told that they can have a stop or what. He was asking he was discussing with the thing. I slipped back through 3 or 4 of my steps. So when they are walking, he slipped 3 or 4 steps. So he was asking Tennyson whether what is the advisability, what is his advice, whether they have to continue or to stop. And what he was saying, he felt unhappy but about the snow condition and finished with his familiar phrase. What is the phrase he was saying? Just as you wish. So as you wish, if you want to continue, continue, I am following you. If you want to stop, you stop. It is your wish. So he given the option to him as just as your wish. And then I decided to go on and we finally reached firmer snow higher up and then chipped steps up the last steep slopes and cramped on to the south peak. It was now 9 a.m. So here he had said that he is going to continue and Hillary said that he want to continue and Tenzing also accepted for his advice and for his suggestion and they followed, and when they are decided to go on and we finally reached firmer snow. They went to the firmer snow higher up and then chipped steps off at last steep slope and cramped on the south peak. It was now 9 a.m. So when they cramped on the thing, it was 9 a.m. We cut a seat for ourselves. So you know that they cut a seat in a place, they will just cut a seat for them, ourselves just below the south summit, and removed our oxygen apparatus. They made some seat arrangement in the snow and they were just sitting and they removed their apparatus, oxygen apparatus. As our first partly full bottle of oxygen was now exhausted, we had only one full bottle left. Our apparatus was now much lighter, weighing just over 20 lb, and as I cut steps down off the south summit, I felt a sense of freedom and well-being. You know, when they were climbing, they used the oxygen, and now what happened when they removed the oxygen thing and kept it down, it was only weighing 20 pounds and 10 pounds have been used by them. And felt that our apparatus was now much lighter. They felt that it was lighter and it was just weighing just over 20 pounds. And as I cut steps down of the south summit, I felt a sense of freedom and well-being. So I cut steps down of the south summit, I felt a sense of freedom and well-being. So you felt freedom and just a sense of freedom and well-being. So you felt a little comfortable there. And both of them felt that. Okay. As my axe bit into the first steep slope of the ridge. So as my ice axe, you know that the axe which we are using in normal place will be different and the ice axe will be different. And ice axe bit into the first steep slope of the ridge. So bit into means he hit for first time the first steep slope of the ridge. My high hopes were realized. He realized the high hopes. The snow was crystalline and firm. 2 or 3 blows of the ice axe produced a step large enough even for our oversized high altitude boots, and a firm thrust of ice axe could sink it half away and the shaft giving a solid and comfortable belay. So what he had done, he had taken his ice axe and bitting each step and step. No, till that they had a hope of climbing, and after that it was very steep and they cannot climb on the steep, so they were using the ice axe and they bitting it, and for first time he was using it there and he bit and he made a steps, and for his boot legs it is comfortable, that much place he made and he was just keeping and he was able to climb. Would sink it half away of the shaft, giving a solid and comfortable belay. So here it gave a solid and comfortable belay, so he was just making a belay. You know that belay means there will be a thread like or a rope like or with a string they will be having. Then there will be what, they will be just making it with the axe, and they will be just making a place to keep their foot because it is very steep, they can't climb, and after that there will be crack or air like thing, they will be just putting their shaft. So it was just making a shaft, a belay, it was a belay, you can see in the picture. Yeah, so you can see the ice axe, ice hammer, and this is crampon. They'll put and they'll just keep on their body and move from one place to the other when they were just climbing. So this is ice axe and this is ice hammer, and with this ice axe he was putting a thrill there. He'll be dropping it into with the hamper in it, and then he'll be just keeping his foot and he'll be climbing. So then he'll be removing it, he'll be doing like that, and this cramp is, they'll be putting anywhere, suppose the gap like something is there, they'll put the cramp and they'll crawl and go. So it is clear, children? Okay, we'll see what it is, what they were doing in the next part. Okay, so here he was, we moved on at a time, I would cut the 40-foot lines of steps, tensing, belaying we while I worked, then in turn I would sink my shaft and put a few ropes of the rope around it, and tensing, protected against a breaking step, would move up to me. Then once again as he belayed me, I would go on cutting. So they will be putting a cramp and they will be just moved one at a time. So we moved one at a time. So he was moving one at a time. I would cut a 40-foot line. So they will be cut a 40-foot line of steps. So 40-foot line of steps, tensing, belaying me while I worked. He was working, he was belaying. Then in turn I could sink my shaft and put a few loops of the ropes around it, and tensing, protected against the breaking steps, would move up to me. Then once again as he belayed me, I would go on cutting. So here when one is belaying, putting and just holding, the other will be just cutting, and one is holding, the others will be cutting. So like that both Hillary and tensing was doing exchange themselves their work, and they were just going on. A number of places the overhanging ice cronets were very large indeed, and in order to escape them I cut a line of steps down to where the snow met the rock on the west. It was a great thrill to look straight down this enormous rock face and to see 8,000 feet below us the tiny tents of the Camp 4 in the western CWM crumbling on the rocks and cutting handholds on the snow. We were able to shuffle past these difficult portions. So what had happened, in a number of places the overhanging ice cronets were very large indeed. It was very large. You know that ice cronets will be there and it will be very large, and in order to escape them, so they have to escape from them, and I put a line of steps down to where the snow met the rocks on the west. So line of the steps, they put steps for the line and down to where the snow met the rocks on the west. It was a great thrill to look straight down this enormous rock. So it was a great thrill for them to look straight down this enormous rock face and to see 8,000 feet below us the tiny tents of Camp 4 in the western CWM, scrambling on the rocks and cutting handholds. They were just scrambling and they were just cutting handholds on the snow. We were able to shuffle fast these difficult portions. So they were able to shuffle each other by themselves, and they were just done the great dangerous task. Shuffle past this difficult portion. It was a difficult portion, and both of them were just exchanging and doing the work, and they were having a team spirit, so it was very easy for them to do. On its east side was another great chronic. So on the east side also there was a chronic, and running up the full 40 feet of the steps was a narrow crack between the chronic and the rock. So there was a narrow crack between the chronic and the rock, so it was not that much easy to climb because there is a danger in climbing it. And so leaving Tennessee to belay me as best he could, I jammed by the way into this crack. Then kicking backward, I sank the spikes of my crampon deep into the frozen snow behind me and levered myself off the ground. So here what had happened, on its east side was another great chronic, and running up the full 40 feet of the step, it was 40 feet of the step, and was a narrow crack between the chronic and the rock. There was a narrow crack means down, it will be straight, a narrow crack, the chronics and the rock. Leaving Tenzing to belay, we as best he could. So because he is good in belaying, he allowed Tenzing to do that, and I jammed by way into this crack. So he jammed into this crack. Then kicking backward, I sank the spikes of my crampons deep into the frozen. So come and deep into the frozen snow behind me and levered myself of the ground. So what had happened, he was just had a thing and he gave chance to the cramp to do to Tenzing, and Tenzing was doing, and while Tenzing was doing, he just jammed by the way and deep into the frozen snow behind me and levered myself of the ground. He was just leaving on the ground. So here you can see this is the belaying. So one person is the other side, the other, and then you have to cramp the crack. There will be a narrow crack down. If they fall, that's it. That life is very dangerous and they will be facing all difficulties, and life is not in their hand if they fall. So in that situation they were just climbing and belaying, and Tenzin was a good person to climb, so Hillary gave the chance for him to do. So here we will stop here children, and we will have one more part. Until this it is very clear to you here what he is doing. He was just both were a very good team, and they were just taking each other thing, team worker, and when one and the other was understanding was very good, and they have known their plus and minus, and that showed when Hillary has a chance, he was giving that Tenzing was good at cramp, so he is giving first chance for him, and he was that spirit is there. Even when they were asked for the advisory, he is telling it is your wish. Tenzing is saying to Edmund Hillary that it is his choice. So the teamwork, and they have a good spirit, so that shows that they can climb in even a higher part. We will keep a stop and we will continue in the third part children. Thank you.